get into the questions. So there's two. Could you briefly introduce yourselves and share your v-HIVE story? And what inspired you to become part of v-HIVE and contribute to the animal health startup ecosystem? Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll go first. I'm Heather Sanders. I'm CEO of a company called AviaSense, and we are developing a smart light bulb and sensor system to improve chicken health in broiler chicken industry.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do inspiration in a moment, shall we, Heather? You're waiting for the inspiration. So I'm Eve Hanks. I am the CEO and founder of myRNA, and we are a new veterinary diagnostic testing company, and we use little pieces of microRNAs and artificial intelligence to diagnose disease early. So my background is I'm a veterinary surgeon and turned entrepreneur.
So my name is Wendy Furness. I'm one of the founding directors of Animal Health Angels. So we look at early stage investment in animal health businesses. I'm a vet by profession. And I used to run quite a large small animal referral farm and equine business in the Midlands, but now most of my work's in early stage finance.
And yeah, my name is Georgia Fleet. I'm the founder and CEO of Zoetis. We're a medtech company, and we've developed an antimicrobial technology that effectively kills bugs on contact. And the aim is to reduce the overall reliance that we have on antibiotics. So going on to the second part of the question, what inspired you to become part of v-HIVE and contribute to the animal health startup ecosystem? And my background is actually as a scientist, so I wasn't coming at this from the veterinary perspective. And when I got my dog Pickles, it really kind of opened my eyes to this world of veterinary medicine, which I just hadn't even considered before. But he's such an important part of my life. And so here we are going down the animal health route. And so what inspired me to become part of v-HIVE was that I'd done a few accelerators and been primarily connecting with people in the healthcare space who don't care about animals, but it's a very different interest. You say animal health and they're like, oh, to the side sort of thing. So v-HIVE is really special in that it focuses purely on animal health, and you don't have to kind of explain why you're doing this for animals as the kind of get-go.
So I'm very much at the start of the journey with v-HIVE, but we joined largely to get access to the network and the expertise and a lot of the scientists that v-HIVE are really bringing, because we're at the stage where we need to be taking our technology and really gathering data on how it works. And I think with v-HIVE we can really start to scale that up a lot more quickly. So,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. I totally understand what you both mean about the animal health side, and also v-HIVE is UK based, which is really important.
Yes.
So I suppose at myRNA we're slight veterans of the old accelerators. We have done one in Scotland, and we did one in America. But the one in Scotland was very life sciences based, and although the one in America was animal health based, there was nothing like that when we were starting out, in the UK. So I think for me, it's just to be able to build that framework for the next set of entrepreneurs, while I learn at the same time and get a chance to put something back. So I think it's a good
nice
mix.
to meet people in person as well.
Yeah.
Like you said, with these virtual accelerators, seeing people over a screen constantly, it is a little bit different when you get to see people in person.
That's true. And I got involved when Sarah, who's heading up the v-HIVE, approached me about whether we could, as an organisation, as Animal Health Angels, did we have mentors and people that could support the organisation, and our role, as we see it, has very much been not just to be financial investment, but actually be there to actually support and help entrepreneurs in the space. So it seemed the perfect opportunity to be involved with something that looked like it's going to be very important in the industry.
And probably good timing for you, Wendy,
Absolutely.
as well. Like you guys starting the, Animal Health Angels at the same time that v-HIVE started.
Yeah, serendipity.
As women entrepreneurs, what unique challenges have you faced and how have you overcome them? I can go first if that's
You've had some unique
I have
challenges.
many a challenge. I was thinking thinking a little bit about this, because I feel like a lot of the challenges are quite similar across the board, but it's just emphasized, or it's just the challenge itself is possibly the same. It's just more enhanced for women entrepreneurs. I think for me, it was more about like the way I was going about things. As I feel like women tend to be a little bit more reserved, a little bit, obviously a huge generalization, but a little bit more in their heads, like self-doubt, and they're don't have this automatic confidence. We're a little bit more maybe like realistic, and so I think for me, my probably biggest challenge was really getting in my head about everything and overthinking everything, and then every piece of feedback you get, you try and make these changes, and then you end up in this constant loop of feedback change, and you end up having at some point just to be like, right, doing this. This is the way it's going to be. And then in terms of overcoming them, I think this is where having a community and support system is really, really vital and important. And, such as the v-HIVE incubator, such as SWEN, I think this is, you need a sounding board and women that have been there and done that to give you solid advice and tell you that you're not going crazy. That's my response to that.
Self-confidence and self-doubt, I think, while you're right, it is not only women that suffer from it.
No,
certainly, I think it's more common that women suffer from that than men.
Yeah.
Because we've been raised to not push ourselves forward, and we've been raised to consider to, even in a very subtle and not, nobody's actually ever said that to us straight on, but there have just been a lot of messages within society that tell us that's all.
Yeah.
Well, that's very much what I see from the investment point of view. So it's it's well known that the amount of investment into female founder businesses is substantially short of the mark of what it should be, and there's a lot of work going on in the UK to improve that with the Investing in Women Code. But when you start to unpick the complexities of that, it's not as straightforward as people might think of total misogyny, which undoubtedly does happen. But when we look at the women putting themselves forward, people will quite often, like you mentioned, there'll be sometimes less confidence, but sometimes just asking for less money and sort of less confident in what the business is going to do. However, some of the other things that I have seen, and I look at things in animal health, human health, green and climate change, is the questions women get asked can be really quite different to what men get asked, and by perfectly lovely guys, like really nice people, who I wouldn't say were sexist or anything like that. Generally, really ask questions that are quite inappropriate. I mean, I've literally verbatim in co-founder teams heard people, if the man turns up to do, you never get them saying, "And where is your other co-founder in the meeting?" If a woman turns up, you will virtually always get asked the question, "So where is Mark?" Or
well,
where,
I don't
where,
have
where,
anything
where,
to
where,
learn.
You are always asked that. Yeah, that's true.
when you just think, seriously.
Where's the boss?
But for me, as an organisation, we talked about this at the start before we went public in any way, shape or form, and actually raising the awareness with my co-founders, because actually they didn't realise the amount of issues that there were within investing in women, and then that we would support the Investing in Women Code, but just talking about that made a difference.
So I think, I suppose for me, I was a solo female founder and spun out, the first company ever to spin out from Scotland's Rural College. So it was a little bit of carving a path, in deep tech and in STEM, and it wasn't expected. So there was some challenges, but actually the biggest challenge I had in my life was that I had in my head to wait until my daughter had finished uni. So I've always been an entrepreneur, but I've not always been able to be an entrepreneur because I've had to I felt I had to provide that money and that safety net and that security of a job that definitely was going to give me a wage each month until my daughter was grown. And I don't know if that's something that perhaps it's a personality type, or perhaps some, one sex finds that it's more, family commitments. But I think this is a good question. But I'd like to turn the question round, because also I face some unique opportunities because I'm a female entrepreneur. So I don't want to put people off coming into the industry. Yeah, exactly. So I think I appreciate the question, but I think sometimes maybe we move the conversation towards, well, what's positive about being a woman entrepreneur?
Yeah, I agree.
And so if we've got a slightly different risk profile, or we have a slightly different way we answer questions, or we have a slightly different way we build our team, or maybe that how we act as leaders, that actually becomes a little opportunity, a little gold mine in itself, because we do things slightly differently. So I don't know if you guys feel that's also the case.
Absolutely do. I mean, selfishly, when I'm making investments, I see female and co-founder teams as a better risk investment, full stop, because you get more diversity, opinions, different risk profiles, etc. So I actually see that as a very positive thing from an investment point of view.
All right, this question is for Wendy. Could you share your journey as an investor and your focus on investing in animal health businesses, and your interest in supporting women-led businesses?
Okay, so my original background, I said, it was as a vet, and used to run 100 vet practice with a team of 350, and worked alongside my business partners. You don't get to be success in business without help along the way, and then that's part of what v-HIVE is. One of my views is I had a lot of help along the way. I've had great mentors, and for me it was part of giving something back to I love young and growing businesses and things that just make things happen in the world. So for me, it was just really important to support that space. And also the animal health space is genuinely really interesting, and it's a segue in time where you can see that the digital era is upon us. There's changes in diagnostics, there's changes in treatment, and there's such a huge world of opportunity out there. So where can you, for me and other investors, where can you, like I said, help financially, but also where can you help from a business experience, and then personal support to people, and that might be in different ratios at different times for different companies, but I think it's just a really interesting space at the minute, and great to be part of it.
What words of wisdom or quotes inspire you in your work?
And that changes all the time. I think that's a common question that people ask when you're maybe at a conference or on a panel discussion or something like that. What are the words that inspire you? But I think I'm marginally schizophrenic, because it depends what I've just been doing, what inspired me. So I think it's more for me what people do rather than what they're saying. So I think you can say all of these inspiring quotes, and you can have that, on your Facebook popping up every day, quotes and inspiration. But yeah, exactly, that's it. But I think I'm more inspired by things that people do. So if people say that they're going to achieve something and then they do, that inspires me to keep going on the path. And I think you mentioned that, Georgia, a little bit as well at the start there, that part of being in a network is that other people can inspire you. So I don't think you have to be, crazily successful in every single thing you do to be inspiring. I think you can just do one thing that someone else would love to do, and then, that pushes everybody else forward a bit.
One person asked me recently, do you ever get worried about anything? Well, obviously yes, I'm a normal person, but when we opened an enormous veterinary hospital in 2011, which was an enormous risk at the time. It was the biggest one in Europe. It was the end of the last recession, and I do feel I perhaps used all of my adrenaline at that point in time, because actually failure was very definitely a realistic possibility in that scenario. But then you just think, right, get a grip, What do we need to be able to do all the things that make this work?
I feel like that is something that I've definitely had to work at, because I do not like not being good at things. I don't like, I always want to work towards getting like an A in school and like doing like my best at everything. And obviously that's not realistic. You're going to screw up. You're going to, like, things are going to go wrong. And so it's been an interesting journey to try and unlearn that like failure isn't necessarily a bad thing.
But
it's fine. You have to break down to read, which is kind of what we did just before Christmas. So kind of, break it down, build it back up, go out again. But,
start again.
Yeah.
Start your days again. Run every day.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because failure as a word, I think, carries a bit of fear. Whereas in the fact the way we define failure is probably, again, like if we do the gender thing, there's probably a difference there. But the way we define failure is probably, the bar is set quite high for success and quite low for failure. So I think you can close that gap a bit and celebrate more successes, and the failures happen like less often.
I think the fear of failure is a remarkable motivator when you look at certain personality types and do certain people who are successful. They very rarely say, I'm frightened of failure, but when you unpick some of the conversations, fear of failure is very, very much in the background.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. But I think ambition, as you're sort of alluding to there, so multifactorial, isn't it? But there has to be a mixture of fear, or you wouldn't get out of bed every day. Like, fear's not a bad thing.
It's a good driver. Good motivator.
That's right. But we should all embrace it a bit more rather than worry about it.
Perhaps,
apart from if you're frightened of heights and do.
So, Wendy, what advice would you have for other women interested in investing in startups?
So,
I suppose also, what would you look for in investment?
Okay, so I guess two parts to that question then. So for other women interested in investment, I think that much like the issues of women needing confidence and seeking enough money within investment, from the seeking investment point of view, we see some of the same challenges in women putting themselves forward from an early stage investment point of view. So in the background you hear people going, well, what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't ask the right questions? Am I good enough to walk into the room? We had a networking event in London earlier in the year, and some amazing women that people would never ever think in a month of Sundays showed any signs of not confidence were messaging me in the background going, oh, thanks for the invite, I'm worried about walking into the room. So my advice would be walk into the room, because actually a lot of this work and investment and knowing people on that hand up the ladder comes from networks. But if you're not in the room, you don't get those networks. But also, the people who are looking to invest, they've been successful in their career, and the power of their own success is really helpful to other people more starting out on that journey. So there's a huge enjoyment factor in it, as well as giving something back. There's a genuine feel-good factor for doing it as well. So I think if women are considering taking that first step into the investment journey, is just do it. Just walk into the room, walk into the meeting or the online meeting, and ask whatever you want, and learn from other people, because that's exactly what everybody else in the room has done over the years.
So also, what would you say that you or your network look for then when you're looking for an investment?
Okay, so we see a lot of investments coming across to us, and to start with, it's got to be a sound business idea. That's something new and innovative, and if you've kind of seen it before, okay, why you? Why are you different? But actually, the single thing that makes a difference to me personally is the leader and the leadership team within a business. So I have to believe in the idea and the concept, but I really have to believe in the people who are leading that organisation, partly because I need them to run the business and make it happen, but also they also need to be inspirational enough for other people to want to invest as well. And so there's sort of selfish reasons for doing that. But actually, if you don't have that team that is the right group of people, then that's going to be really challenging for business to work. I also look for integrity in people investing in as well. So if somebody is unnecessarily cutthroat to other people, that isn't something that I kind of value in a person. And obviously the finances of the businesses have to be sound. Recently we've a group of us have made an investment in a female founder business called Marleybones, led by Josephine and Michaela, and then we're also pledging actually Eve's company, and I'd make Eve was brilliant when she initially presented to us. I mean, literally as the second I saw her presenting, I was just writing notes going, yeah. And Eve was able to answer any question that was thrown at her, which I think is really important, without having to shuffle for bits of paper. That confidence of being able to answer and knowing the business inside out, upside down and forwards just inspires confidence.
So what's your personal up-and-coming milestones or goals as part of v-HIVE? I think maybe Eve wants to go first on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I can start on this one. I think for me, my milestones that involve v-HIVE in particular, I suppose lots of milestones on the cards, etc. But I think the ones that involve v-HIVE are about networking in particular for me, and also in our business growth at the moment, we're moving from just our research and development, science education kind of based company over into the commercial side. So I think there's business goals there that hopefully with some help and advice and networking and reaching out to people in the kind of within the layers of v-HIVE, the access that we've got to these experts is going to help us with the business goals. But I think personally, it's really a networking goal for me, and to be able to interact with other entrepreneurs, particularly in the animal space, particularly in tech, to meet people, in the investment space as well, and to be involved in things like, women's networks, etc., and entrepreneurial networks. I think it's just so important for me, and a lot of support comes from that. So I think for me, managing this next part of the business probably is known quite widely, that post-Series A going into commercial as being one of the most stressful parts, people say. I think it's very individual, but to do that with a group of people around me is probably my main milestone at the moment.
Yeah, I think I'd probably echo that, but on a much earlier, smaller scale. We're pre-seed, just closing our first fundraising round. So that will really allow us to really kickstart and get going with all the R&D that we have planned, which is really exciting. And University of Surrey, we're hoping to partner with them on some of that work, maybe get some papers out. And that, again, is all part of v-HIVE. And even, just being a part of the v-HIVE incubator, I think has really given that extra layer of confidence to the investors that we were sort of speaking to prior to that as well. So that's been really helpful. And then, as you were saying, the connections, the partnership opportunities, the expertise that we have access to, that's all going to be really important in the next steps in terms of, finishing off that R&D, getting some new ideas going, and then running pilot studies, all preparing for a launch. Yeah.
So far, we as a result of the networking event a couple of months ago, we have been talking to one of the researchers at the University of Surrey. We've sort of developed a kind of prototype plan for doing some work with him. So that hopefully we'll be able to do at a small scale in order to get some sort of seed corn research in order to then leverage some kind of grant to actually do a full scale research project with him. So yeah, I suppose that is
it's a huge exciting. Well done.
So that's opening doors, isn't it? That, if you're not in front of those doors, you don't get to even look inside.
With regard to the grants as well, like having v-HIVE, University of Surrey, like this whole partnership with Zoetis, like all of that just helps with the grant applications by a long shot, especially having universities involved.
There's somebody in this room who's very good at writing grants.
But yeah, no, I agree. And I think having that traction that you get, having that added kind of credibility, I suppose, that you're involved with something that's backed by Zoetis, backed by the University of Surrey, created for us.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing, we're super lucky. v-HIVE has been created not just for us three, obviously, just for us. It was for me.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't created exactly for us, but we are obviously fitting the profile because we're part of it. So I think we've got an opportunity to shape how v-HIVE evolves because we're the first set of founders to go through. So actually I see it as like a bi-directional conversation just now. Like our milestones should probably influence how v-HIVE then evolves, and then that becomes like something that we can be actively participating in. And I think that's really cool.
I think that's something that's kind of coming across so far as well in the conversations that we've had so far. Obviously we're all at the beginning of this kind of v-HIVE journey, but even in the conversations that we've had so far, there's been a very back and forth in terms of dialogue and how we can both benefit from this, and how the program can be the best in terms of offerings and whatnot. So yeah.
And I think also, like, from my experience of saying earlier, as part of an American accelerator and now as part of this incubator, I think it doesn't stop. So it's not like you've gone through and you've ticked some boxes and signed a contract and spent a certain amount of time speaking to people and it's like, thanks for your help. I think you've built those relationships for life, and the idea, I think, between an entrepreneur and the time you put in, because it's sacrifice for us, and the incubator or accelerator and the time they put in, is that you form something solid that you're going to keep forever, as you go through this. So, which is where the value comes, I think. Even if it, at the time you think, I'm not quite sure exactly what I want this month or next month, I think you end up with milestones you didn't expect, perhaps.
So what do you all think the importance of networks like SWEN are in terms of women's success in their own businesses?
Keeping sane. I think we've spoken a lot about the importance of connections and SWEN, and having other women that have been there and done that, and shoulder to lean on, cry on, sense check. Sorry, that was
it's
a
a matter of critical mass as well, isn't it? I think the higher profile everybody is, then the more people have the confidence to do it, and the more people realise it can be done, even if it's just at an unconscious level, as we talked about earlier. People aren't believing that women can do this, so I think it was that overall visibility and mass of people.
And giving us a platform as well to speak about what we're doing. Things literally like this, putting this together, putting it out, like really spotlighting, female founders that are doing really incredible things. I agree with that. I think strength in numbers must have an impact, but and role models, like you say, Heather, I agree with both of those. I think there are, for me, softer things too, in the sense that I genuinely look forward to, events that SWEN have tomorrow night. I'm not sure when this goes out, but for us in real life at the moment, they have an event coming up, which is going to be about entrepreneurship and how to get more women into entrepreneurship. And I think it raises issues. It takes the perspective of my Arnie, work, founder, work all the time, and brings it back to more of a women in entrepreneurship level, and gives me a little bit of a deeper dive really into how things I'm doing might influence other women, and things that other women are doing that could influence me. And I think it just gives you a moment to step back and have a look and see how things are going, That in itself is quite driving and inspiring as well, because once you take a step back and realise that the actions that you're taking, someone will be looking up to you. Like we had somebody email through the other day, like, oh, okay, saw your lecture, like, was that your lecture at UCL? That could be, and it's those sort of small things, and you're like, oh, okay, making small,
the ripple effect, isn't
it?
Exactly.
I think it's really, really important to be seen. I mean, that's something that doesn't come naturally to me, but actually I think it's really important for other people to see other people's success and go, actually that is possible. That could be me, and then also so that people can talk about everything's not perfect all the time, and have somebody to ask those questions to, because there's a load of questions I've wanted to ask in the past. And, it's stupid asking that. Whereas you have the networks, you think, actually it's okay to ask that, and actually there's I've said this before earlier in the interview, there's nobody who's run and made a successful business without things going wrong or not going to plan. One of my business partners used to endlessly say no plan survives battle, and they were entirely correct, no plan survives battle.
So when we think about the future of the animal health sector then in this entrepreneurial space, what do you think that looks like?
I feel like, obviously since COVID, pet ownership has only increased. Millennials such as myself with our dogs that have human grade X, Y, Z, and we have the best care, and we're getting the best insurance, so we can afford the best care. I feel like it's only going up, and that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. We're innovating in this space for animals, so I think we can only expect that there'll be more innovation within animal health space. Maybe transcending is the wrong word, but coming across from animal and human health as well. Maybe a little bit more communication between the two, so that we can benefit across the board, all animals and humans.
I think that connection. I've just been in Namibia doing a One Health conservation course with vets and medics, and actually the amount of intersectionality between human healthcare and veterinary healthcare is enormous. But also talking about those challenges with medics and vets, we shared a huge amount of crossover and interesting ideas. So I think there's huge potential in there. I think when we look at the pet space, it's obviously pets are just part of the family now. That's there isn't. They're not the sort of pet that's kept outside anymore. They are often superior beings. Some members of the family.
Way better food than I do.
But when you have that, then people they want the best in healthcare, they want the best in diagnostics, they want the best in food, etc. That's available. So I think expectations are high.
I would totally echo that. I think the agricultural space is really vulnerable just now, and there are a lot of disease. We work in the diagnostics, so I suppose I'm more focused on that. But there's a lot of diseases which is really difficult to control and have a massive impact on things like greenhouse gas emissions and like you worked with antimicrobial use, as well as consumer safety and other issues such as that. So I think it's time for me to harness some of these new innovations in tech, and I do believe the pet parent space is very important, and I know people who've got houses with a bedroom for them, one for their child and one for their dog, so I know that has changed. But I do think that we have nearly 9 billion people in the world to feed with a sustainable protein source. We've got to up our game in agriculture, I believe, and look after the welfare whilst protecting productivity.
I think the sustainability space across the board is going to be really, really important. Because whether people like it or not, we are going to have to change the way we do things and business level. So I think companies also, as at the early stages, need to be thinking about their CSR,
ESG,
and ESG policies within there, because it's going to make a difference to how that company performs, what its valuations are in the long term, but also you're back to doing the right thing as well. So
if you're a woman entrepreneur, woman mentor or investor, or you'd like to join us in encouraging more women in these positions, please send us a message through our website or find us on LinkedIn.